Uh, Day XXXX of internal conflict. Uh, what exactly is the conflict? Uh, it's, I guess, in a way, it's kind of how I want to see myself, or how I do see myself. What am I? Though it also relates to the hormones, the hormone replacement therapy, right? Whether I should be taking it or not taking it at all, or maybe even taking it in a smaller dose or something like that, uh, or just taking part of it. Like instead of taking the castrator, just taking the estrogen, or instead of taking the estrogen, just taking the castrator, and things like that. uh, but the conflict is the overall the am I a man or am I a woman, right? Kind of thing. Uh, there is a part of me that sees it that way, and by that way I mean that kind of dichotomous, like it's one or the other, right? It's not. I don't. I'm okay with shades of gray, but apparently that's not what my brain wants. I'm not entirely. I get the idea. Like when people say they're gender fluid, like I get that. But if you're taking hormones, hormone replacement therapy, that does seem to indicate or imply that you're going in one direction, right? Like you're not really open. Uh, I mean, like if you're trying to look like a woman, right? You're not really gender fluid. Uh, so I don't know. Maybe in between is what I want, right? Uh, it's hard to say. Like just I mean, and I'm saying this because I've been on hormone replacement therapy now for 2 years and 5 months. But I even for almost 10 years I've been at least cross dressing, wearing makeup, wigs, things like that. And I still have moments where just last night or the last 24 hours as an example, last night I was here in my bus and I had on a very thin textured hoodie. Uh, I'm describing it that way because it was the kind of not like this kind of hoodie, right? This thick kind of poofy kind of thing, but it was one that was very much showed off my body, and so like I'm looking at myself in the mirror and I can see my breasts. My breasts are very well defined in this shirt, or at least I can make them out. I'll put that way. And my shape is I can see this feminine shape. And so I'm dancing in the mirror and kind of having a good time and imagining uh, the man that I know and wondering like what it would be like if I were a girl, like his girlfriend, right? Like if he was there with me and I was like dancing with him this is what I was doing as I was looking in the mirror and just imagining this and I had a good time and I started to have this realization that a lot of these girly things uh, are things that my life was missing. That things that might have made my life not feel so pointless. Uh, one of the issues that kind of compelled me towards this behavior in the first place was the feeling that my life was pointless. For a long time, I would say that I was depressed, and I just felt like I had no reason to live. Most mornings, I felt like I had no reason to get out of bed in the morning. It's just like, and I would. Usually, it's because I have to make money, I have to take care of things, and that sort of thing. But usually, that's how I see it. I felt like I was serving a prison sentence, basically. It's like the only reason I'm getting out of bed is because I know that I have to eat, and in order to eat, I have to have a job, and it just felt like everything. It's like a chore. It's like every day was a chore, and I did find enjoyment out of certain things, like maybe watching a movie. I might enjoy that, but there was this sense or this feeling that this is a meaningless life. This is just not, this movie is not giving me, it's not really a reason to get out of bed. It's kind of just a nice distraction, right? But last night when I was picturing like myself like in these stockings and like skirts and girly shoes and things like that, that I started to feel this kind of aliveness, like this idea that I've had before, that has through similar situations, that the reason my life felt pointless was because I was living as a man. That it felt pointless because there is nothing in a man's life that really, appeals to me. Of course, that's not entirely true, but this is where the idea was going last night. Was that it's just this. If I had been born female, life likely would not have felt so pointless. That I could just do the things I wanted to do, right? And that was last night. Then I fell asleep. And when I woke up this morning, I had this kind of urge to change the world. I had a dream that I was working. Change the world is not a good way to put it, but I can't think of a better way. But I had a dream last night that I worked for Donald Trump. This is 2024. Currently, there's an election going on. Trump is making a big stink as usual. I had just the night last night. I saw some video about Taylor Swift saying that she doesn't want Trump to be president or something. This was a big deal. The video had like 2.1 million views and something like that. And so I thought, I'll check it out and see what this girl has to say, because I'm expecting her to say something stupid, and because she's a famous singer. Who cares what famous singers thinks, right? But give her the benefit of the doubt anyways. So yeah, she didn't say anything really profound, and it really had nothing to do with Trump, but more, I guess, some lady who supports Trump or is a Republican or something. In any case, so I had this dream last night, and I was working for Trump. I think at first I didn't even know. I think it's like I was standing around doing, like, just twiddling my thumbs, kind of. Not literally, but, and he shows up, and I realized that I had neglected my job, but at the same time, I'm like, I didn't even know I was working for you. What's going on? And so I suddenly was like, well, I'm gonna go find something to do. And I remember him talking to me and kind of being like, like, what the fuck? Like, what are you doing? Why are you wasting your time? And so I found something to do, and I remember thinking, like, I'm happy to be working for him. And so this morning when I woke up, I was still in that kind of state of mind, but the work wasn't like me going out here on my bus and picking up boards, even though that's kind of what it was in the dream. I think in the dream I was like picking up boards and moving them around or something like that. I'm saying that because there's boards right outside my window. And so yeah, I woke up with this kind of feeling of like there is a work that I want to do, and but it involves going out into the world and you know uh, interacting with people and trying to effect change. And this was, I used that word effect deliberately because that was the word that came to mind this morning when I was thinking about this. Was that I have this image of all that girly stuff that I had been kind of fantasizing about the night before as being ineffectual, uh, which is the word that came to mind this morning. Was this is an ineffectual way to make change? That if I that these things are pretty much seen as kind of like silly, right? Like if Trump went to go meet the president of China and the Chinese president was wearing like striped stockings and had painted nails and things like that. Trump might be like, what is the point of that? You know, like what are you trying to do here? You know, there might be a reason for that, right? That there's, a time and place for that, right? You might say, but that meeting, that's not really it, you know. And I'm not saying that people in that situation shouldn't wear that stuff. That's not what I mean. What I mean is that doesn't actually contribute to that. It's like this is not. The point that I'm getting to is that I saw myself as a man in that situation. That I was pretty much just like typical like statesman. Not decorated. I had no paint on, no makeup, no frilly things. I think, and I do believe that is why they dress that way. They dress intentionally in these like very kind of plain suits, right? Like uh, not decorative, not flamboyant, not attention grabbing, because that is it is a certain form of communication, right? It's like it was saying to someone, like, we're here to do business. We're not here to have fun. We're not here to whatever. So that was I had this then I had this kind of like this isn't the time to be a woman, right? Kind of thing, and I felt this almost like a being pulled apart in two different directions. Because on the last night was kind of the fun, kind of like I almost feel like life has some kind of meaning, to the more pragmatic, like I need to be able to take care of business kind of thing this morning. uh, and I would say when I look back at the last few years, that has been kind of the trend, or and I think that maybe somewhere in my head that is kind of how I see men and women. At least their bodies, what their bodies kind of communicate, anyways, to the world. Like when I look at a woman's body and I see how slender her arms are, how like there's just no muscle at all. Almost, it looks like I see some women like in pictures online, and their arms look almost like just bones with skin on them. And I look at that and I think your body just wasn't made for work. It wasn't made for getting things done. It was made to be attractive, right? It was made to be, it was made to have this kind of like sexual kind of attention grabbing kind of piece to it, right? It wasn't made for being out in the field. But when I look at a man's body, it's the exact opposite. I look at his body and I think your body was made for working, right? And that's it. It wasn't made to be attractive. It wasn't made to be, to look at and this sort of thing. Which is not to say that men's bodies don't look good. But when I look at it, it's almost like looking at a car, right? When you look at a car, you look at it and you think this thing was made for a specific purpose, right? There might be good-looking cars, right? But the car itself, you can look at it and say, yeah, this thing was made for at least rolling around. So that's kind of how I see the male body and the female body. It's almost like you have art, right, which doesn't do anything. When you look at it, you look at it and you say, it's meant to be expressive. It's meant to get across some emotional or psychological kind of thing. It's not really meant to do anything, right? It's practically. It's not meant to. You can't use it for putting nails in the boards or whatever. Whereas with the car, you look at it and it's not as. Maybe you don't want to hang it on a wall like you would a painting, right? But you can see that it has a purpose. And this is pretty much kind of how I see the male and female body. Of course, in my own life, I want both of those, right? I don't want to be just the car, and I don't want to be just the painting. So this is what that may be like kind of the conflict. Maybe hopefully that gets the point across. Because that was this morning or last night. I was kind of the painting, right? But then this morning I woke up and I thought I want to be the car. I just came up with that just now. This isn't something that I usually do. I may come up with something better, but but this conflict has been going on almost entirely since I started, right? Because when I started, I remember putting on the women's clothing and the makeup and the wig, and having the similar feeling that I had last night was the feeling of this is something that's missing from my life. And then what happened though is that after maybe a few weeks of doing that, maybe I took a picture of myself, or I saw myself in the mirror and I saw myself as a man, and I just thought, I like that. I don't know that I want to get rid of that. I feel like this is in some way part of that could just be from studying religion, because one of the things that keeps coming up in my study of religion is this whole idea of the union of opposites, which is something that I've written about a couple times now. That the union of opposites is a symbol of health and like wisdom, right? Like having a clear vision, which is why it's the symbol of medicine. Or I shouldn't say it is, but the symbol of medicine, which is the caduceus, the staff with the serpents entwined around it, is a symbol of the union of opposites, right? So, in the opposites, the way that it's conceived of in Eastern religions and in Western religions, essentially, is that you have, from the very beginning of the universe, a masculine principle and a feminine principle, right? And so the idea is to bring those two together into one, right? This is the idea. This is the marriage of heaven and earth, right? And so that is on my head. So maybe because of that I do have a bias. But at the same time, I do feel also like I was just thinking last night. I have this image of man in me somewhere that just seems to it can't be expunged. Like I can't scrub it away if I wanted to. but I think maybe there's a part of me that doesn't want to. So, uh, and one the challenge or the work for me is looking at why one. So you could say that I have two options. One is to just accept that I'm gender fluid, that I'm a man in some cases and a woman in others. Uh, but for me, that one question that comes from that is, do I have any control of that, or am I just like a, I'm a man at work, and then all of a sudden, like a hot guy walks in, and all of a sudden my butt goes sticking out, and I'm like, ooh, oh, oh, and then I'm like, oh shit, get back in, butt, get back in, get back in your pants. I don't know, but anyways, the other option is to question my motives, to see maybe there's a reason why I refuse to let go of this image of myself as a man. Maybe I have some motive to want to see myself as a woman, right? And that's usually where I go. But then I have days like today where I'm just tired of that. I'm just tired of thinking about it. I'm tired of. I'm just thinking about it. Maybe the only way to put it. I'm just tired of questioning it. I'm tired of devoting that much energy to it. And I kind of feel like just saying, just stop thinking about it. If I want to see myself as a man in one instance, then just go ahead and be a man in that instance. Because it almost seems like questioning it and thinking about it is doing more harm than good, right? Because it seems to just be making me aggravated and irritable and things like that. So I don't know if that's the reason. Uh, because part of the aggravation is not even am I a man or woman, but it is more like how am I going to work? Am I going to present as a man? Am I going to present as a woman? These sorts of things. Uh, Work is one of those situations where I have a motive to see myself as a man, right? Because currently I have a job as a temporary assistant manager, and since I've been put in that position, the temptation to see myself as a man is going up, and it's one of those situations where I think this isn't really the time for me to be a woman. And there are times like this morning when I was kind of looking at my body naked in the mirror and trying to be feminine, where I thought, I don't want to be this at work. I don't want people to see me this way. Right? That's kind of the theme. Is that the desire to see myself as a man is comes in largely when there's something that I feel like it needs to be accomplished. Whether it's being an assistant manager at work, whether it's building something for my bus, or you know, taking the propane down to the tractor supply place to get a refill of propane, things like that. These are usually the times when I think, I want to see myself as a man. Uh, the practical, the being effectual, getting things done, being able to influence people and have powers of persuasion. These are usually the times when I want to see myself as a man. When I am more in kind of like the relaxed, like I can let my hair down, so to speak, and put on some music and dance around and just sit and talk with somebody, like heart to heart. This is usually when I want to see myself as a woman. So, maybe that's what gender is. I don't know. Maybe gender is an illusion. It's just a way of accomplishing one thing or another.